Well, it said here forged in fire.
Yes, where all snakes should go. Well, we'll get to that with our
I was promised swords and knives and tomahawks, not copperheads or king snakes or what have you.
Well, we know how much your affection is for snakes. And so I just wanted to make sure if he had the opportunity, because he was a part of the 9th annual Snake Rodeo Roundup, I think it's what are there at Lake Washington in the past weeks. I didn't know if he put one in his pocket to bring here just for you, Will.
No, I left him at home.
You left him at home. And that guy being Mr. Brian Luck, the Easterling, he is not here to talk about snakes. It's just fun to pick on Will, who's in the studio for Rhino today. But he won the History Channel Forged in Fire competition for Season 7, Episode 37. And he makes custom knives of all crazy kind from repurposed steel. So snakes are just something you do, I assume, on the side. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right, let's first go with the Forged in Fire, because that's pretty cool that you came away the champion in that popular show there on the History Channel. How did that even come about for you to be a competitor there?
I got an email one Saturday in June of 2019 from the casting company telling me that they had kind of been following me on, I guess, social media, wanted to know if I would be interested in applying for the show, because otherwise I'd never really thought about doing it. So that's how it started, an email from them.
So that means they had to at least seen, because I would never get an email from Forged in Fire to say, would you like to be a part? Just a random drawing, look of the draw there. Me and fire don't mix well. So they had to have gotten word somewhere that Brian from Mize, Mississippi is up to some good with creating things. So where would they have scouted you, Brian?
Social media, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, daily posting pictures of what I'm building, what I'm working on. I like to try to break them before I send them off. So I video testing the blades, and so I'm just assuming that's where it was from, social media.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you got the email and you believed it? You knew it was true?
Not at first. You get spam calls, spam emails, text daily. And when I opened it up, I said, okay. And I put my phone back in my pocket, and I waited till my wife got home and let her look at it, because there's no way this is real at all. It can't be. So. And
when you found out it was, which we've had several other Mississippians to be featured on Forged in Fire.
Yes.
So my first call would be to some of them and be like, did you get an email? Is this real?
Yeah.
Or email them sort of back. But it was real. And so you did get the chance to go. So where did you go? Where is it shot?
It's filmed in Stamford, Connecticut. I always thought New York. It used to be filmed in New York. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't still. That's how much I kept up with the show. So, we flew to Stamford, Connecticut to do the filming we went for round 1 and 2 to begin with. So,
because they put you through a little bit of a tester, right, to make sure that you're, for lack of better term, TV worthy. Would that be fair? Or to sort of see if you can hang on real TV, or all the phases on TV?
No, everything's on TV from, after the initial contact, when they contacted me, we went through the application process, background checks, all that kind of good stuff. Months went by. I got another email saying that I was accepted, and they'd give me a film date. I got the film date and a plane ticket, and when I got there, we went to filming. Everything was based on what they had seen, I guess, through internet and social media, and then through the application and interview processes that we went through.
So I guess I'm more up on like food competition shows, which is sad but true. But normally you're just thrown in there with competitors that are probably equally yoked to you in your skill, and then you get, these surprise ingredients, and you have to create a meal out of it. Is that like similar in terms of, hey, here's some steel, we need a X, Y, and Z type of sharp thing from it, and get after it?
It's really similar. I won't hold me, to this because I'm not 100% sure, but my understanding is that the Forged in Fire was actually, born out of the thought process of like the Food Network's Chopped. You know, it's 4 competitors, 3 rounds, 1 goes home. You know, it's the same process. But yeah, you get there and you don't know what you're going to do until the camera starts rolling, and that's when they hit you with the surprise of whatever you have to do.
Well, it tickles me, Brian, that you got an email out of nowhere, your words, for Forged in Fire, to a show you really hadn't kept up with. You've heard of it, but you weren't like a dedicated watcher of it. So did you go binge episodes or seasons of it, or did you just go in blind and just ready to take on whatever came your way?
Being in the knife community for as long as I have, and with the wonders of social media, internet, I've gained a lot of friends in the community, and a lot of those people, several of which I know from here in Mississippi, have been on the show, and so I searched up their episodes and folks that I knew, just to get an idea. But
you really can't. You can only prepare so much.
Yes, that's
you
right.
can't really, other than your wife getting out, in there and hollering at you and making you make something quick on time. It's about the only way you could run yourself through, what you think it may be like. So since you really, and I think also that's a fun way of going into something like Forged in Fire with no expectations of what it should be like, because then it's just what it is. You just enjoy the moment and you just roll with it and you take whatever comes your way. So in that first round, what came your way?
They made us build a key.
Did it have to unlock something?
It had to unlock a lock that there were 4 boxes, 4 locked boxes containing 4 different types of steel, and whoever was lucky enough to get their key built first to make their lock open could get their choice of the steel.
Had you ever made a key before?
No. I even in the show I made reference to the fact that I'm a knife maker, not a key maker. That key whooped my tail really bad. I mean, I by the grace
you had to survive.
Yes.
So you didn't win that? Did you win that round?
Well, it's just like the Food Network, the Chopped, okay? You got those 4 who were competing. Well, 3 of those met the parameters, and one did not. So I survived. I did not win round 1.
Do you still have that mangled key?
No, that's property of the show.
That's not fair. If it's not functional, they should let you hang on to it.
It's functional. It opened that lock.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. It took an hour and a half to get it built. But
how long do they give you to complete your task?
In round 1, you have 3 hours.
Oh, so that is a considerable more amount of time. I'm assuming that the skill sets are different. The requirements of the skill is different than cooking, because usually with the cooking they only give you maybe 60 minutes, but I guess it takes more time for you guys to be able to complete a task.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a longer drawn out process than your average person realizes, because we're so used to going to Walmart and buying.
Well, you just take your key in there and you say, I need a replication, and they just go and stamp it or something, and then hand it back to you.
Yep.
But to think that this was primitive way of doing things, could you imagine if you had to go into somewhere to get a second key for your house and go through the same processes that you had to?
I would just pull the door down with my truck and buy a new door. I mean, it's just no way around that. That's what I would do.
Probably not a bad idea to have those skills up your sleeves too in certain scenarios. Okay, so you survived round 1, and we already know the end of it, that you walked away as champion. But what was that like going into round 2? I mean, did you even go into this thinking, that you could win it, or because you were so detached from the show and some of it itself, did you just go in kind of thinking, whatever happens, happens?
That's really what I was thinking. Of course, I went in hoping that I would do well, but you got to think about it. I'm from Mize, Mississippi, and the town's not as big as this building we're sitting in, and I never would have thought that I would wind up there. So just being there was pretty amazing.
But then you make it by the skin of your teeth through the first round. The second round, there's got to be a little more pressure to say, I think I can hang in here and do this. And we're going to hang with Brian Easterling. He is the Forged in Fire champion. We're We're continuing to visit with Brian Easterling. He is from Mize, Mississippi. He won the History Channel Forged in Fire competition, Season 7, Episode 37. When was that, Brian?
October of 2019 is when I flew up for round 1 and 2, and they flew home immediately following that, and we filmed round 3, the building stage, and I flew back to Connecticut the 1st of November, and we actually filmed the finale, testing the weapons and all that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we ended with your round 1. There's 3 rounds, 4 competitors. You're now down to 3 competitors, 2 rounds. You made a key that did unlock a door. Mm-hmm. What came next? Well,
and through round 1, we built a key, opened the box, got my steel, and I built a knife in an hour and a half. And then round 2 is when you correct any problems that the judges pointed out to you, all that kind of good stuff, and you have to attach a handle, which presented the next big box of mystery surprises all in itself, because what they wanted us to do I'd never even heard of. Google had not heard of it,
Well, what was the term for it?
It was a keyhole guard, or a key slot guard. And
well, that was going to be one of my questions for you anyway, Brian, is I get making the beautiful knife in itself, or making the, I guess the end piece, but then it's a whole nother level of artistry, looking through your social media feed earlier and seeing the beautiful handles and the ways that you stick it in something to sort of be able to use. Is that something you learned when you learned how to start making knives, was also the handle piece, or did that come later?
It's all kind of a learned process.
Because I guess you have to have it in something to be able to use it.
Yes, you do. And honestly, handles is one of the hardest parts of a knife build, in my opinion, because, everyone has a different way of wanting things to fit and feel in their hands. Everyone's hands is bigger or smaller. No one's is the same, So when you're trying to do something for someone you've never met who's 6 states away, handles is one of the hardest parts to me, always has been.
Well, that was a hard part to round 2 for you. Mm-hmm. Did you get the sense that your other 2 competitors that were left still felt like, oh, wow, what is this? Was there a consensus that maybe that was a curveball that they threw you?
Yeah, it was for all 3 of us. We all stayed in the same hotel, and we were able to see each other and speak and all that kind of stuff, and we all, like, you ever heard of this? Nope. Have you? Not a clue. So everybody was on the same page as far as, their knowledge or lack thereof of what they had us doing for day 2, for the handle build. So we were all kind of on level playing field right there,
And so you obviously came out at least on the top 2. Did you win that particular challenge?
Well, like I said again, it's just like the other competition.
There's not a winner of the round. There's just
there's
a survivor.
Not a winner. There's just one of those 3 that did not meet the parameters exactly as they needed to be in order to progress on to the 3rd round. So now it's just
2 of you.
Yeah, and the great thing is the 2 of us that were left were both Mississippi guys.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was your partner?
Doc Schiffer. He's a phenomenal knife maker. He's a great guy. And
what part of the state is he from?
He's down around Leakesville. Yeah. He's really great bladesmith.
What are the odds?
I know, really. And so it was pretty cool, and so I'm thinking, okay, so I'm really lucky, and I'm going to be cool with losing to this guy because he's such a great guy, and I was, his work is phenomenal, and I was like, I'm okay with coming in second to him. That's great.
It feels like the knife community, or the forging community, if that's a fair way of saying it, is a small community, and you guys all, and gals, root each other on. It feels like such a hospitable hobby.
Very much. It very much is. There's, I've been doing this in this community for a long time, and I can honestly count on one hand with fingers left over the number of people that are just really arrogant, rude, and you don't want to be associated with. That's very few people. It's really a great bunch of folks that make up this community that I'm lucky to be a part of.
So you're part of an even smaller percentage of that who can call themselves Forged in Fire champion, because you did come out over the one in there in leagues. Sorry, guy. But hey, glad 2 Mississippians were there at the end. But that's the weapons one, so that's cool. Like, what kind of did you go in knowing what kind of weapon you'd have to make?
At the end of round 2, they, when the 2 that are remaining, before they send you home, that's when they reveal what you're going to be making when you get to your shop. So I knew what I was making prior to even leaving for the airport the next morning.
What was it?
Tomahawk and a bowie knife.
What's a bowie knife?
Bowie knives.
Know what a tomahawk is?
Bowie knife is it's a big knife. It's made famous by Jim Bowie. Everybody always thinks that he built the knife, but actually his brother was the one who built the first Bowie knife. Just a big knife from the frontier days for hunting.
In what scenario would you like, I need a Bowie knife? It doesn't sound like something.
Snakes?
No, we don't kill snakes with knives, or at least I don't. No, Bowie knives.
You gotta get close to do that.
Yeah, Bowie knives were great when they were, first brought about for just about everything. They were frontiermen. They used them to fight off Indians and other people, whatever else they needed them for. They make great camp knives. They're big, they're heavy,
Had you ever made one before?
Oh, yeah. I'd made plenty of Bowie knives.
What about tomahawks?
I'd never made a tomahawk.
So that was the one you were a little bit more worried with?
Yeah, that was one that I had.
Are there patterns for tomahawks on Google? I mean,
you just YouTube it. You can watch videos on how to do it. So
are you flying back to Connecticut from Mize, Mississippi with these primitive weapons in like your carry-on bag? Because I'm assuming that's not happening.
No, like at the end of day 4, when filming was completed, and they had taken their pictures and documented all the parameters were met and all that, I had to lock the weapons up in a box, and they carried them with them, and they shipped them to Stanford through FedEx. So I didn't have any weapons on me at any time.
So the end piece to it, Brian, is the fact that they test them. Now that's the fun part. Do you get to test them, or do people like me get to come out and throw a tomahawk and test it?
The judges themselves do the testing. Well, that's
not fair. They get all the fun.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool to have random strangers come up and test your blade.
So how do they test them?
Oh, they put them through Almighty. It's things that the average person that I build a knife for are not going to do with their blades. I mean, and it is what it is. It's a competition. At the end of it, somebody's walking away with $10,000 in bragging rights, I guess you could say. So they want to do all they can to try to destroy those blades, just to make sure that they are what they are. And
as the knife maker, are you watching it going, oh no, don't do that? Do you know how many hours I put into that tomahawk?
Yeah, you definitely.
And then like hold your breath, like, yes. Come on, Tommy, hold it up.
Yeah, no doubt. It's tense the entire time.
Okay, and then your name's called out. Like, it's you, Brian Easterling, one, Forged in Fire. And, what's that feeling like?
Shock, surprise, joy, and just really complete disbelief. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I had made it there to progress that far, and then to come out on top and as the winner. It was pretty unbelievable.
Now, but prior to that, had you been building knives for a living, or did that catapult you into an opportunity to do it full time?
As a living, I wouldn't say that it was a living. No, it was a hobby. About 6 years prior started turning into a hobby that was paying for itself a little bit, and I already had future goals of doing this full time in the near future.
Whether it's selling them, workshops, being able to print, help people, that kind of thing.
So I went from being busy after the show being extremely busy enough that I'm full time with it.
which is a blessing, I know. Well, we're gonna step back before Forged in Fire and find out how Brian got into that. But we're getting to know Brian Easterling a little more here on Good Things. He is a Forged in Fire champion. That's the popular show on the History Channel, and he now has that title with so many others from, or at least competitor, out of the state in Mississippi. And it's curious to me because it feels like this show has really brought back to life the skill. Is it forging? Is that how you say it? Forging. Mm-hmm. And then it's opened it up to maybe a whole new generation. But you were doing it before it was cool again. Yeah. So when's the first time you were introduced to forging something in fire?
I guess I was in my early 20s the first time I, dabbled with actually forging a knife. So
who introduced you to it?
Myself.
You just saw fire and said, fire, build knife?
Yeah, kind of, ancestry, I guess. I don't know. I'd been dabbling with it since I made my first knife at 14 in ag class in Mize. You'd probably go to jail for doing that today in class, but so I've been dabbling with it, doing what you call stock removal for a long time. And but I was in my early 20s the first time I dabbled with actually forging out a knife with an anvil and a forge and hammers. So.
Did you just get addicted to it?
Yeah,
in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. It is very addictive. I tell people all the time, they'll ask, what do I need to do to get started? And I tell them, what you need to make sure you don't have an addictive personality, because if you do, not that it's a bad thing, but you could lose touch with your wife or your kids. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's very addictive. Because
there's probably always something new to learn or to do a little bit better, or different techniques and sort of skills.
Yeah.
I know one of it's Lucky Town Customs,
yes,
correct?
That's right.
And that's your middle name, or
Lucky is my middle name. Yes.
Well, that's cool. And so you do sawmill blades, and then you also though do it from repurposed steel. So what does that mean? Like, you don't just go out and buy new steel. Can people bring you?
Yeah.
I mean, you may, but what does that mean by? I know what repurpose means, but I never thought about repurposing it into something sharp and shiny.
Yeah, I mean, recycling steel, leaf springs, coil springs. It presents a different set of challenges when you're using steel that was, something in a previous life, because you have all the stresses and problems that caused that piece of steel from whatever it was to be discarded. So, when you're able to take something and create something else with it, rather than just getting bar stock that you can buy, and I do that. I do that. I use new steel a lot. It's just a little more gratifying to me, because there are certain challenges that you've got to overcome when you're working with something that's old.
Well, and if someone commissions you for a piece and they bring you a sentimental piece of steel that's, no longer being used, and then you turn it into something cool, I mean, there's that whole story element to an heirloom now.
Exactly. And I get that a lot. Horseshoe rasps and all kind of different things like that. Just, this was, my granddaddy was a farrier. This was a rasp that I found in his shop, and I'd love to have a knife built out of it when we can do that,
Was it kind of the same, Brian? I'm thinking in my mind, like where you can take jewelry, like gold, so real, good jewelry, and you can basically melt it down, and then you can make whatever you want to, out of it. Is that similar to it, or is it a little bit harder to take something that's in a completely different form and then make it a knife?
Well, I guess what would make it harder is your skill set, I guess, and your ability, the knowledge you have in doing it.
But are you still melting it down into a mold, or is it different than that? Are you beating it into a knife?
Yeah, you don't melt it. I don't have a forge big enough for that, or they're hot enough to melt steel. You just get it up to.
I guess that would be pretty hot, huh?
Yeah. About 2,500 degrees is what my forge will burn, which is nowhere near the melting point of steel. So you're just getting it hot enough that you can, hit it and move it into what you want it to be. So just about anybody can, but it's a learned skill that takes time to
sure.
figure it out.
If Brian Easterling had a signature creation, what would you say you feel like, I'm good at this?
Well, not because of Forged in Fire. One, I love building buoys and different variances of a Bowie knife. That's something I really like. And I can't tell you how many what the old timer Schrade looking sharp finger. I kind of have my take on that blade, and I sell a lot of those. So that's one of my go-to. I think I'm pretty good at it, that one particular style. So, is
there one that you still, or what are you still trying to learn?
I
know you're still learning all the time,
yes,
but like,
yes.
what's a knife or an axe or a weapon or something that you're like, I haven't done that yet?
Well, I haven't done any swords. I haven't had any requests to, and probably should, just for the sake of doing it. The one thing that I find myself more often now trying to better myself at is Damascus. Forge welding steel, multiple pieces of steel together to make one piece. That's something that I'm really new at, and really trying to hone that skill a little bit better.
Assuming they're not listening, what's the strangest thing you've been commissioned to make?
I don't know what it's called. It's not a mace, but it's really medieval. It's a handle with a chain and a spike ball.
No way!
Yeah, I made one of those.
Like, you made the whole thing, or
yeah.
from top to bottom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would think a chain would be the hard. Was that a hard part to get them?
No, not too much. You just, Did
you test it out?
Oh yeah.
What do you swing it at?
Well, I had a piece of plywood, and also Energy may not want to hear this, but my transformer pole in my yard, I attacked it a little bit.
Did you ask what was behind the request?
Yeah, I mean, I know the guy, and he's just...
Because that sounds like Dateline things.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Because if you wind up Friday night seeing...
He's just a collector. He likes to collect. He's really, I guess, into medieval type weaponry. Mm-hmm. I've made him several different like Viking axes that...
I noticed on your Facebook page, Brian, you have it's like the two medieval looking axes on the either side, like it's what were they called?
I call them a Viking battle axe.
Yeah, those look gnarly.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. So,
do you ever make the little throwing knives?
Yeah, other than having folks tell me that they've thrown some of the knives, and the buoy that was made for Forged in Fire, they threw it in the competition. I've never actually made what you consider an actual throwing knife. I've not made any.
Well, that's gaining popularity with all of these axe throwing places that are popping up,
yes.
And now people are wanting those. It's kind of like cornhole for your backyard, but it's a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes. A little bit more dangerous, but you can actually get a primitive weapon or knife weapon one there, and you can throw like the little ninja knives and the stars and do all of that.
Right.
So, I mean, there's so many different avenues now that are just opening people up to hobbies and unique things that they never thought, which I know if you are interested in forging that you do. Brian does a lot of workshops and teaches them too, so we'll dive into that more. And we are wrapping up our conversation with Brian Easterling. He's got Lucky Town Custom, where he can make custom knives of all crazy kinds and weapons, from repurposed steel or really to fit your needs. He's also the Forged in Fire champion from season 7, episode 37 from the History Channel. And you're passing on all your knowledge in workshops in a lot of different ways. I mean, I guess that's how they found you to begin with, Brian, is you just sort of showing your skills online. Now you've sort of packaged that into opportunities for others. So what's that like?
It's really cool. To be able to pass along the knowledge that you have to others, especially in a craft such as this, that at one time prior to Forged in Fire was not really known, and now that it is, it's opened the door up for not only myself but bladesmiths, throughout the country, around the world. It's pretty neat. I've met a lot of cool people in some of the classes that I've done. People from other countries. So it's really cool, and something that I never would have dreamed I'd have been doing.
So tell us about some of your workshops. I mean, do you travel Mississippi and host them? Can someone have you come to their event, or, get a gang together and get you somewhere, or come to you? Like, how do they get a Brian Easterling workshop? Well,
I'm set up to travel. I'm mobile, I guess you could say, but and that's I love doing that. But as any craftsman, regardless of what it is, would tell you, one can get a much better experience. Get the full experience of what goes into what I do on a daily basis at my shop. With all the tools that I can't throw in the back of my pickup and travel abroad with, but yeah, classes, events, whatever, I can set up, do, demonstrations, what have you, but it's just whatever anybody might want,
I noticed where you've opened your shop up to various organizations that have a cause. I saw where Wounded Warriors of Mississippi came out to your shop and got the opportunity to bang some steel. So what does it mean to you? And you've also connected yourself with Get Her Done's the Snake Rodeo, which they raised money here recently for an officer, but then also always connect themselves to a good cause as well. What does it mean for you to give back?
That's what we're here for, right? I mean, I love making money, but I love helping people. I mean, it's one of the most important things that we can do, because it's just like I said in a post the other day on Facebook. One day, it might be myself that's needing help. And I'd like to think that somebody somewhere might remember that, that old boy, he helped somebody. He helped me, so I'm going to help him. And that's what it's all about. That's what we're supposed to do, I think. Help people.
And even if it's helping them, like the Wounded Warriors of Mississippi, just be able to escape and find a new outlet or learn something new, or to introduce just a regular old person to a completely new skill. Because I've never done it, and I would be terrified. But I would think something that takes all of your senses and takes your thumbs away from your phone and requires your full undivided attention could be very cathartic for. Even if you just come out with a Willy Wonka looking piece of steel or whatever that's not functional, I mean, but today art's in the eye of the beholder.
That's right. So, it's true.
So, and ladies are getting into it as well.
Absolutely. My episode, there was a lady that I was competing against in my episode, and up until the end of the second round, I was kind of scared that she was going to be sending me home. And as a matter of fact, just here recently, she was called back for a redemption type tournament and wound up winning. She says she won out of 8 bladesmiths. She walked away the champion of that redemption tournament, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's no limits, you're only limited by what you want to do, I guess, and
sure,
which just makes it so great to me.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in forging, they can find you online, or if they're interested in you and commissioning you for a piece, they can also find you online. So where do we find you, Brian? You can find me, of course, at Facebook. Brian Lucky Easterling is my personal page, or you can Lucky Town Customs. I also have a website, LuckyTownCustoms.com. Email is ble6161@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and
newly to on TikTok.
Nobody who listens to Good Thing has TikTok. Don't worry about that, including me. But stick with us. You got more coming up next with Sports Talk Mississippi from 3 to 6. We'll be back tomorrow at 2. Until then, find time for the good things.